I guess before I turn it over, Fruits Basket. Did you watch this when it originally came out?
Yeah, I watched it back in the day, so it would have been, I think it came out in 2001. So that was around the time I watched it. I maybe watched it in like 2002. It was very early on. So hold on, let me think here. I was, I think, 10 when I saw it first time. So yeah, about 2002, 2003, I watched it. Um, my whole deal with it was that uh, anime was very, very expensive. I
Oh
mean, it's
yeah.
still expensive, but it was way more expensive back then, especially when you equate, inflation. It's even more
Yeah, because
expensive.
back then you got to think if it wasn't like on Toonami, you essentially had to buy it physical. Streaming didn't
Yeah,
exist, whether it was legal
yeah,
or illegal. Like you had to buy
right.
physical, and by its nature, like oh, here's 3 episodes on a VHS. It's
Yeah,
$50. It's
yeah.
50 like $2001.
So, needless to say, the only anime that I ever owned back then, when we're talking VHS days, was Dragon Ball tapes and Pokemon, the movies, and some of you. Do you remember the red box of the series, the red boxes?
Yeah, no,
It was
I think so.
series. Yeah, so that's all I had anime wise and Digimon.
Digimon,
But
digital monsters,
digital,
Digimon are the champion. Yeah. I still prefer the
I,
the
I
Japanese opening, but
still love Digimon. No, but like the whole deal with this was that the only other way for me to watch any anime or discover any new manga or anything like that was my public library, and they just so happened to have like the entire series there, anime and manga, and it was like one of the few options. So back then there was very little anime manga there. Now they've got like a big anime manga section. It's very like expansive. Like I went to the library over the summer, take my daughter for like a summer program thing that they have, and we were looking, and they have so much stuff, but it was one of the few things that was there, and I was so craving anime or manga at the time that like I would take whatever I could get. So that's how I discovered it. And I didn't necessarily love it then, but I watched it because it's all I had to watch. And I didn't think it was bad either. I still don't think like this 2019 series, the first episode, I didn't think it was bad for being a shojo. Like I thought it was pretty good for what it is. Do I still like the original better, but I've only watched one episode of the new one. I still do like that original better because I like the art style better. Um, it just stands out a little bit more, and it just doesn't have that digital animation the same way that all the anime does now. But
yeah.
um, it shojo isn't my. It's not it's not a thing for me either necessarily, but it meant something to me because it's like one of the few things I could watch back then, and it was one of the earlier anime and manga that I read and watched, and I had used to go to what's it called? Shoot.
It's like one of those little scholastic book fairs you're trying to think of, or something else.
Yeah. So they had those there, and so I ended up picking up. That's how I first discovered the manga itself, and that's where I learned about it. And then later found out my library had like a whole bunch of stuff. So, yeah, the Scholastic book fairs were pretty cool for discovering new things because like we had no way. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have, we just didn't have ways to discover things. So small stuff like that, like I remember picking up a Duel Masters, and it's called Animanga, where it's basically just the anime and a manga form, like colored pages straight from the anime, stuff like that. So I mean that's kind of my I don't want to ramble since we can't have a long episode today, but yeah, that's kind of my history with it. And one of the reasons I picked it just because it was a nostalgia thing, and I was kind of curious to see what's this new one like. Is it any better? Does it look good? What kind of your thoughts on it? Stuff like that. So I mean, did you have like what were your thoughts? I know you're not into shoujo, neither am I necessarily, but what were kind of your thoughts on what you saw?
I mean, yeah, from the outside in, because I watched what I could, because I watched a few episodes of the newer show, and then I watched some videos on it as well. It's definitely, I definitely remember back in the day people thinking it was more of like the reverse harem, and that's obviously not what this show is.
Yeah,
It's at best it's like a love triangle, but it deals far more with family issues, acceptance,
yeah,
rejection, uh,
Yeah.
breaking the chains, the curses, because obviously this starts off with the
I mean, the
who's the
girl's homeless, for God's sake. She lives in a tent,
yeah.
you know.
It's
So
I believe it's the Soma family. Essentially, when they
yeah,
get hugged by the opposite gender, so they're all males. They get hugged by the female main character. Oh, what's it? Honda. I believe that's
yeah.
her, the last name. It's the easier to say. Sometimes I can't say everything properly. Hugs them,
Sometimes
finds out they're all cursed because it has to do with the Chinese zodiacs. There's each different characters and stuff like that. But based off their past, and I guess you want to say their traumatic past and the different zodiac characters that they are, really comes down to like how they interact with each other. It's I don't think it's like a one for one, but some zodiac characters have different personality traits. If I'm not like misremembering that.
no, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, and it deals with that because I mean you can probably deal with a lot of a lot of psychological issues from gaslighting to just not getting along to. It's one thing to be family, but at sometimes I feel like the way the family is interacted with the curse, it definitely holds them down. So you can't love like you do family like blood, but you're essentially chained together. So
Yeah.
the concept of getting resentful or not feeling like you fit in, it definitely touches on some of those things, which are
One
great. It's just at its nature with it being a shojo manga slash anime, and it's very obviously targeting a more female demographic. It's just not the type of show that I would prefer to watch. Not enough
one thing I
action,
will
not
say
enough
for
sci-fi.
Yeah, one thing I'll say for any audio listeners or people watching is that it I think it is absolutely crucial because I watched it. I watched this and I watched episode 1. Absolutely watch Fruit Basket's prelude because it tells a whole backstory of everything that's kind of missing from the series about this girl. And it's I would say essential. I would say watch that. Absolutely watch that first. And a lot of stuff will make a lot more sense. And of course, we didn't have that back then, so a lot of things just didn't make sense. And I would definitely recommend it. So I watched that in episode 1, and I thought Prelude was really, really good. Tells a lot of story that's not told, in a 24-minute episode, stuff like that. So I definitely recommend watching that. It's actually out on Blu-ray. Prelude is, so you can buy it physically. But yeah, I definitely recommend that if you're interested. And one of the things too I wanted to say is that for this podcast, I'm sure you feel the same way. It would be nice to cover all genres and all different things. You know what I mean? Not just stick to one formula and one type of anime, because it feels like, I want to be able to be open to everybody that likes all types of anime and
Yeah, and we
manga.
can, but by its nature, like
Hi.
there's just oh my god, he's on that. There are shows that I'm just it's a genre or it's a type of show or it's targeting an audience that, to be fair, me covering or reviewing it probably wouldn't like I can give it a shot, but I wouldn't do it justice because it just shows that kind of like this. I'm not the target audience, and I'm not gonna do like fully enjoy the show. So I don't want to say like have some like resentment on shows like these, but I'm not gonna probably give it the full attention that it definitely would deserve.
Fair
But I
enough.
would say this: a lot of stuff that I saw, because I think they say the 2001 adaptation didn't finish it because I think the manga was still airing. Most people say that the 2009 reboot apparently
Bro,
finishes the whole story and it fairly faithfully adapts the manga to the anime.
okay,
So
you're
like if
back.
you're from what I've seen, if you're wondering which one to cover, I mean you can go back and watch the 2001 adaptation, but most people that I've looked at and talked about say the 2009 reboot would be the preferred way to go, unless you're just gonna
Really?
just straight read the manga. Yeah,
You mean the 2019?
2019. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I didn't get to watch enough of it to say, but I'm partial to the original. I love that art style and that hand drawn just
Yeah.
hand drawn art style and
No, but
things like that.
it's kind of like with Ranma and Half. You can go back and watch the original; it's still good. I still fully enjoyed watching or I am
Fair.
currently enjoying watching the reboot. I think I've only watched a few more episodes since we last reviewed it a few weeks ago.
Same thing for Ranma One Half. I like the new one, like the original much better.
I think the
But
new
I think
one
the one
things are
is good.
changed, but it still respects. At the end of the day, the source material is still respected.
It's just one of those things that we talk about all the time. You've said it a million times. You've said it so many times. Things don't always need to get remakes and reboots. They
No, and
don't.
that
They
I agree
don't.
with. This, from what I understand,
One, I would say did not need it. It just
Which
didn't
one,
need it.
Ranma?
Yeah, I mean, it's good. I like it. I'm not saying it's bad, but I just don't think it needed it.
Yeah, because I don't know. I don't know whether it fully told the story. It just feels like they're trying to reach a new audience, people that won't go back and watch it. But for this one,
100% cash grab. That's what it is. I mean, it could
yeah,
be a cash grab and still be good. Doesn't mean it's going to be bad, but it is a cash grab. That's what it
yeah.
is.
But
At the
unlike it, this feels Fruits Basket feels kind of like what they were doing with Spice and Wolf. The old anime never actually got finished, and it's been so long that you're better off just doing a reboot of it. Because first of all, you're gonna have huge jumps in just animation quality and seasons, but it's just easier to go back and readapt the whole thing to completely finish it. Which is, I would say, a little bit different than going back and say we're just gonna reboot the OG Dragon Ball or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I get it why they're doing it. You know, people got to make money and stuff like that. So I get it, and I think that that could be more used as an excuse of, oh, hey, the anime didn't finish telling the story, when typically when that's the case, the anime did finish wrapping up the story that it was going to tell,
Yeah,
just not with the manga. You know what I mean? There isn't that many series out there where it's like, oh, it just suddenly ends and there's no closure whatsoever from the anime. Like there's a few examples, but not many. You know, it concludes the story for the anime. And you know, a lot, as you know, a lot of anime and manga are completely different. I mean, I brought it up before, Yu-Gi-Oh, for example, completely different. I mean, completely different. There's no relation to the shows whatsoever. The show and the manga, there's zero relation besides the names of the characters. So like there's a lot of those examples out there. Um, so, you know, sometimes anime has a story that it wants to tell and isn't going to follow along the manga, and that's okay.
yeah. I would say because it's one's a manga, one is a light novel. There. You did bring that. There are two shows that came to mind. One was No Game No Life, which I
Yeah.
remember being really popular, but it never got a continuation season. And then the other one is High School DD, which hopefully we'll get more. Obviously, there's more manga coming, but the light novel only got adapted up to like what, the fourth season or something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember. I watched all of it, but I don't
So it's not
remember.
like it's not out there, but sometimes it feels like a lot of anime, it's just there to just advertise the manga itself, and then it's never going to properly get finished. But unless it's like a long running shonen, kind of like One Piece, that's that popular, it's probably never going to get, a few hundred episodes to probably finish telling the story that it
Yeah.
needs to, especially if there's like a few hundred chapters.